We are going to be going through the quarterly client updates for our arts, culture, and entertainment vertical here at Adage, and we're going to be looking at Q1 of 2019. So to kick it off with a couple of introductions here of who all we have on the call that's going to be speaking today.
Good morning. I'm Matthew Agee, the Director of Technology with Adage.
And I'm Sarah Bortson, the Digital Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment.
And I'm Will Moran. I'm a Senior User Experience and User Interface Designer with Adage.
Today we're going to kick it off by going through some recent launches. So this follows roughly the same agenda as we went through last quarter for those of you who are joining us again. From there, we're going to go into some technical and marketing trends that will focus on any new services and offerings, some operational updates, and then some recommendations for ongoing optimization. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the Adage roadmap, focusing on some design updates, technology upgrades, and product updates as well. So kicking it off here with some recent launches. The first one that we're going to be looking at today is the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. This is a full redesign and rebuild that we did using the ACE platform with Smartsheet for commerce and Episerver as the CMS, and it is fully REST. So, taking a look through the site here, we have the redesign that we did was to coincide with a rebrand that came out to work with their 125th anniversary. You can see a lot of different ways on the homepage to show some movement and focus on the orchestra pulling in their beliefs. We also have then up here in the top navigation, that's a sticky nav, the ability to move into the POPs brand there at the CSO, so you can see what's happening with the POPs as well as CSO on the same site. And then if we go in to look at an actual production detail page, we can see the event that's coming up, what performances there are. We've added this ability up at the top to give a quick highlight of what this performance is going to be about. You can also then see there's a sticky bottom nav there that always allows you to jump right into buying tickets whenever you're ready. We also created the ability to link out to the orchestra, so you can get to know the different orchestra members here. You can hop into individual bios and see things like what their current playlist is or their favorite foods or hobbies, a way to get to know them on a little bit more of a personal level. If we move into the actual e-commerce of the ACE platform, we can see the use of our calendar here with the ability to filter based on your type of event or category. You can also move from month to month, either from that drop down or from scrolling down and loading additional months. Looking at the specific performances, as you highlight over them, we can see the different show imagery that's tied in with that performance as well. Once we go into buying tickets, we're into Smartsheet, the Adage SYOS solution here. I'm going to go ahead and add one ticket to my cart, and I can pick from different levels, but I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm interested in any level. And then I can pick my seat here using the SYOS, and then go on into checkout and into the rest of the cart path from there. Next, we have the Goodman Theater. So for the Goodman, we implemented a refresh and rebrand of their existing site. So this mainly focused on the homepage and production detail page. We partnered with a third party for the design for this project, and you can see on the homepage here a lot of different ways to expand their capabilities around showcasing their content and imagery, also doing things like highlighting the educational events that they have coming up, new news, and then an important part of this refresh was to pull out the legacy of the Goodman and really highlight that history, as well as serving to welcome and familiarize people with the institution through things like the Q&A or pulling out additional information about the different theaters that are at the Goodman. In looking at one of the production detail pages, we're going to take a look at Winter's Tale here. We can see again that expanded use of imagery up here at the top, as well as then things like this rotating carousel down here, where we can add both videos from YouTube in different places as well as still images. We're also pulling in audience responses via social, the ability to look at different artists, also added a plugin here that can gather additional feedback about how the site experience is going, as well as then for people who want to get really in-depth, additional things like more in-depth articles that can be linked out to, as well as taking the important accessibility information for the production and putting it directly on that production detail page. Another key element of this page that we updated was the mini calendar. So we originally had a grid view sort of similar to what you see here, and then we made it a little bit more robust by also adding in this list view. And it includes things like the ability to highlight special performances as having the best availability or different things like that, as well as then seeing the starting price type. Up next, moving outside of the world of the arts and cultural space, we had a number of other launches this past quarter, and we're going to pull out a couple of them here. So starting first with the American Health Information Management Association, or AHIMA, we worked with them to do an in-depth discovery and design process. So for this project, we started with the organizing idea. Impact the outcome is what we worked with AHIMA to develop. And then we went into some really in-depth persona creation. And through the creation of the personas, we were able to figure out and map out what the true priorities were for the organization, for the site. So things like with this persona, it came out that natural language search was going to be really important, and that was a really key element to what we designed for this project. So a lot of different ways to navigate through the site, a lot of really varied types of users. So you can think about it sort of like someone who's coming to your organization to learn about like your camps or educational programs versus someone who's like a ticket buyer. The next piece then that we went into was a really in-depth look at the site map. It was a major site mapping effort that one of the things that I think was really key and successful for this was we actually took the personas as well as the core principles of the organizing idea and mapped everything in the site map back to that to make sure that each area of the site was really clear for those types of users and for what they were looking to accomplish. I already sort of touched on that natural language search being a big part of the project. So you can see here the prototyping that we set up and how you can, on the homepage, get to that natural language search right when you land there, as well as then see additional information such as upcoming events and other ways to continue to learn. Once we look into the user interface designs, we can actually see the site start to come together in terms of look and feel. So this project also involved a rebrand, a refreshed branding and visual look. We can pop back here again into the layouts for the search results page, and so you can see again that difference between the lower fidelity but still really fleshed out technically experience for the search results, and then you can see it actually styled here and what it would look like with that updated branding and visual piece. The last launch that I'm going to show today from Q1 is the Women's Council of Realtors. So this was also a full redesign with a brand refresh that we completed, and it was built on the Umbraco CMS. So one of the things that I think was really key to this project was the idea of chapter sites. So the Women's Council of Realtors has a whole bunch of different chapter sites where you can then see the information about what's happening in your area with your chapter, what events do you have coming up. You can filter by different states, different months, networks to figure out what those most appropriate events are. And a piece that I think was really exciting and especially unique case for them was we created the ability for local chapters to actually update their parts of the site without needing to log into the full Umbraco back office. So you can see the ability to come in here and edit that president's message, that message that we saw when we first came on the page. You can also then see additional upcoming events and make different edits there as well. You can also see these partner images. You have the ability to control those without needing to log into the CMS. So it really gives a lot of flexibility to a great number of different people across the country without needing to have a full understanding of the CMS. So we can see here if we filter down to find the events in Florida, and then we see we can come down here and find based on the dates that event that we have coming up of Martinis and Masquerades as part of the Tampa chapter. we can see how easy it is to track that event down, and then we could go in and make edits to it or add additional events as well. Those are the key launches this past quarter that we wanted to highlight for all of you. And with that, we're going to move into technical and marketing trends. So in this section, we're going to talk through some new services and offerings, some operational updates, and then ongoing optimization. I'm going to hand it off to Matt first, who's going to talk through a couple of our new technology services, and then Will's going to discuss our newer design offerings.
Something that's been out in the marketplace for a while and something Adage has been partaking in for quite some time is a technology trend called DevOps. And this trend is known as the ability for the operations, IT operations, to help out the development team in coming up with good ways of maintaining environments and setting up systems for repeatable deployments. So internally, our DevOps team is made up of John and Andres, who are our IT team, and they help us with a lot of the setup of new servers, new environments, and make sure our production environments work properly and are working smoothly. We're starting to look at ways that they can also expand some of the opportunities that we're providing, including looking at an automated schedule for certain types of operations that we think should be something that everyone would be interested in. And one of those opportunities we're looking for is a CMS copy down schedule. So there is a need for the live environment to continue to get updates and have new features and new imagery. And what we'd like to be able to do is set up a schedule with you to copy that content and edits all the way down to the staging environment on a regulated schedule. So this will help make the staging environment easier to work with as it mirrors production more closely and more timely. And setting it up on a schedule allows that to be optimized so that everyone is aware of when it's going to happen. So if you're interested in talking about creating a DevOps schedule for automated copy downs, let your project team know, and that's something that we've been working on recently. From a technology perspective, we've been looking this past quarter at progressive web apps and started to use that in 2 projects already. So progressive web apps are a term that's used to describe a practice for building websites and packaging a website that can allow the content to be offline. In addition, this allows the content to be put in either a Google Play store. They allow for a progressive web app to show up directly. It looks like an app, but it runs like a web app. So that means you'll have all the same tools on the editor side that we're used to as far as being able to work with CMS. And then you can also update whatever you update on the website. The progressive web app would be a reflection of that. So it's the same thing in real time. So this allows you to save the website as a shortcut to your homepage. Not every piece of content in your website should be a progressive web app. So it's something where, for instance, the tickets or mobile barcode might be of interest to you to be offline, but maybe the calendar is not. So there's different ways that you would need to look at how you would go about partitioning your website into what makes functional sense. And we can work with you on different ideas around that. So the Apple App Store also gives us some opportunities to package a progressive web app, but they're still increasing their support there. So that's something we're continuing to watch to make sure that that support lines up with our expectations and with the needs. You will have noticed that these already exist out there in the world today. So anything that you see in the App Store that would be called Lite, Facebook Lite, Flipkart Lite, Twitter Lite, Messenger Lite, Starbucks, these are all progressive web apps. So by using that terminology, I'm not sure when they decided that Lite was the word to use, but they definitely made that choice across the board, and a lot of different companies are going with it at this moment. But any of those terms essentially is an identifier for you that this is a progressive web app, and that means you can have all the same functionality as going to the website, but it should be a little bit more efficient and a little bit easier to work with, easier to add and store that experience. I'm going to hand it off to Will and to talk about Adage Optimize.
Great. So I'm going to talk about 3 offerings that we have here at Adage. They're pretty new, Adage Optimize being the newest offering we've rolled out recently. We've been going around with a lot of our clients trying to figure out the best way to help them optimize their analytics and how we can help either set them up or really dig into what you're looking for based on your needs. So what this offering basically does is we will work with your team to kind of understand different areas of the site that you're looking to optimize. So either by setting up new analytics or auditing your current analytics, what we can do to make sure that you're measuring what you need. We'll also look into different areas where you want to make improvements. So if you notice that something, kind of funky is happening on your site with your current analytics, or you're getting feedback from your customers about something's not really working right or they're missing something, we can start to set up different tests like A/B tests and really test out a lot of these hypotheses and see where we can make improvements on your current site. And then over the long term, we'll help set up a strategic roadmap so you can kind of take what we've given you and run with it, so you can make better ongoing goals and set up future goals and KPIs for your site. The next thing I'll talk about a little bit is content strategy. So this is another need we've noticed a lot from our clients. Sometimes they struggle a little bit with their content, especially when they're rebuilding a completely new site, trying to decide what comes over, what kind of gets left behind or discarded. So what we have been doing is helping a lot of our clients dig into what content you really want to focus on. So measuring the current content through audits and analysis. So using analytics as well to figure out what people are really looking for and what they need. This can also help identify areas that you might need to build up some more content for your users. And then also creating governance workflows or other kinds of workflows through Umbraco or Episerver, where we can figure out who has the right permissions, where the content's going, who's approving everything, and who really owns the content on your site. And then also coming up with templates and guidelines. So if we find that you have a very specific area of content that needs to be, pretty consistent, we can help develop those templates. And that includes things like, making sure we're using the right keywords and tagging things correctly. There's meta descriptions and things like that. The last thing I'll talk about is branding. And this is something that's still kind of new with us, but we definitely use it all the time with most of our clients, trying to make sure that their brands are updated and really come digital first. But with this offering, we really want to make sure that your brand is the best it can be. So we do focus on a digital first brand. And some of the things that we like to do is really dig into your strategy and architecture. So if you do have sub-brands or things like festivals and events, that they all fit in really nicely into your site, but also throughout print and other digital materials that might go with that. We'll also look into developing your brand and identity. So if you do need an expansion or you have areas where you need improvement, such as you don't know how to brand conferences or other kind of ephemera that go with your brand, we can help develop that. And then also packaging all of those pieces together into a guideline or a system that you can easily follow and expand upon in the future. And with that, I'm going to hand this back to Sarah to talk about some operational updates.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. So we saw a lot of new things happen in Q1. First of all, we hired 4 new employees, and they come from all different backgrounds into all different roles. So we hired a new Scrum Master, a new Product Owner, as well as a new front-end developer and a back-end developer. We also started PWA Pluralsight training, so building on the work that Matt already talked about, making sure that we are learning as much as we can and getting fully onboarded to that new technology. We also formed an Umbraco Guru group and continue to meet with that. So as we continue to grow and expand what we're doing with Umbraco, we want to make sure that we're working together as a team to see the best places where we can innovate and grow and make sure that we're using that CMS in the best ways possible. And then finally, we also added in some interpersonal training. So things dealing with soft skills like how to motivate and inspire others, things like that through the University of Michigan. Looking at operational updates, you can get a little peek into what we're doing here at Adage on our day-to-day, in addition to working with all of you as clients. We also have an annual survey that we do, and this past quarter, we went through the results from last year's survey. So the leadership team takes this very seriously, and they work with the HR department here as well to find out where are the areas that we're excelling as a company at Adage, where are the areas where we can improve, and then how do we implement those new improvements. We also had the rollout of Adage University. So this is basically a depository of all kinds of different learning tools and information, places where people can go to continue to grow and sharpen their skill sets. And then finally, my personal favorite from last quarter, to coincide with March Madness, we had our annual Adage Bake Off. And it was, the competition was fierce, but in the end, we had a excellent winner. It was actually Will, who's here on the call with us today, who won our annual Bake Off. And the whole thing, I know this is cheesy, but it was truly a treat. I just thought of it and I could not resist saying it. I'm sorry. Looking at what we have upcoming for the next couple of quarters, so Q2 and Q3 here in 2019, we have a Smartsheet webinar, and I'll be touching on that a little bit during the Smartsheet updates at near the end of this webinar, but that's coming up on May 21st. We also have a webinar that focuses on design thinking, which I think will be really interesting for anyone, regardless of how familiar you already are with that topic. That's coming up on July 10th. And then we're just thrilled that we're going to have TLCC 2019 here in our hometown. And please be sure to hold a few hours for Monday night. We'll have our standard networking night, but something that we're really excited about. Because it's here in Chicago, we're actually going to have our full staff will be there. So if you have someone who you've talked with for years or months, but you've never met them face to face, hopefully you'll be at the conference as well, and you'll have that opportunity to see all of the full members of your team who you work with here at Adage. To see all of the events that we have upcoming and what we've been up to recently as well, you can visit our website at adagetech or adagetechnologies.com/events. We also want to start highlighting some of the awards that we've been doing. So looking at the last half of the year, so Q4 of last year and then Q1 of this year, we had a couple of new awards come in. So we won the Horizon Interactive Award for our work with Neek Reef, with excellence in interactive media production, as well as in a Marcom Award for a medical website category for faceted search for our work with OrthoInfo for AAOS. And again, to keep up to date with what awards we have won, we've won a number of them for our arts and cultural clients as well, just none within the last 2 quarters, but there are a whole bunch in there. So if you're interested in awards and what we've been up to in that arena recently, you can visit our website at adagetechnologies.com/awards to learn more there. And then lastly for this section, we're going to go through a quick ongoing optimization update. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about backlog health, and from working with us, from working with Adage, you should hopefully be well familiar with what your product backlog is, but a quick recap on that for anyone who is newer yet. The product backlog is basically a well-organized and prioritized list of work for the Scrum team that's derived from a roadmap of upcoming projects and work, and it consists of issues and epics for each feature. Basically, once an issue has finalized requirements and it's ready for development, it can be assigned to an iteration or sprint. And then those items, once assigned to a sprint, should have the requirements basically stay as they are. Those should pretty much rarely change once we get into the specific sprint. So something that we wanted to focus on with our clients is making sure that we're maintaining a healthy backlog. And we recommend reviewing the backlog frequently to identify both near-term and long-term items. And almost all of you, when you're meeting with your clients routinely, will be going through your backlog and taking a look at those near-term items in particular, which is great. That's how we make sure that we're moving together at a good cadence and we're getting our work done as we've laid out to do. And part of the reason that is successful is because we take those higher priority items and we keep them at the top of the backlog while the lower priority items live near the bottom. And one thing that we want to make sure that we're doing with our clients is going through either like quarterly or monthly, depending on how much work we're completing with you at the time, and doing a backlog grooming session with you. So figuring out what do those more long-term items look like, and how do we map out the backlog so that we're continuing to keep an eye on the future as well as the most pressing items to be completed. And with that, speaking of roadmaps, we're going to tell you a little bit about our adage roadmap. And we're going to start with Will, who's going to talk us through some design updates, and then Matt is going to kick us off with the technology upgrades and product updates.
Great. So two things I'm going to talk about that we're currently working on are conference discovery and some brand discovery. So these kind of tie into our already established discovery process, but these are a little bit more in-depth for what your organization might need. This first one, the conference discovery, is a little bit more association focused, but it can be tailored to work with some of your performing arts clients out there. So essentially what we would do is we'd either go to a meeting or a conference, or if, maybe in performing arts, you might go to a festival or something like that, where we can really engage with your audience and gather a lot of that qualitative data that we don't always get to have when we're looking at analytics and stuff like that. So essentially we'd work with you to, narrow down a target audience we'd want to talk to. We develop something, like interviews or a survey or some kind of testing or focus group to really get the answers that you're looking for. And we kind of wrap that up into some kind of findings review with some recommendations on what we can do to either increase engagement or maybe build up some more content on the site that's for an audience that might be a little bit left out. And then we would kind of go back and decide where and how we want to implement that. The second piece I'll talk about is brand discovery, and this is more. This is probably going to be built more into that initial brand offering that we've been working on. So this is more looking into how we can optimize your brand for digital, and if we do need to take further steps to maybe even rebrand or build around your brand a little bit more. So what we would do is kind of look at everything that you have, kind of audit your brand, look at how it's fitting into your digital landscape. What we would need to do to either change the architecture, or if there's anything we would recommend for growing your brand or naming pieces. And then in the meantime, we would come up with some kind of some quick wins for consolidation or small improvements. So a lot of the time we see that clients don't really have a logo that's optimized for mobile, or their colors are a little bit off, or they don't translate really well to digital. So we can make some recommendations there. And then with that, I'm going to move on to some technology upgrades. So Matt.
We did mention this in the last quarterly update, but the test ref conversion is something that's been in progress on our end for quite some time. So we've been working on this for over a year now. We have definitely determined that test V15 is required to use the ref services to fully run a website, and we recommend getting your CMS version in line at the same time, if at all possible, when planning for this upgrade. It is Testra's biggest upgrade probably since the inception, but definitely since we've been working with them in the past 9 years, this is the biggest upgrade that they've been working towards. So something that will likely only happen once in the lifetime of any website would be a major CMS, not necessarily or a major backend upgrade, but a backend almost re-platform. So redetermining how the whole website works. So if you haven't started to work with your project team on planning for this, please reach out to them, and we will be following up with individuals over the next couple months as we're trying to schedule these out as efficiently as possible. For Episerver and Embraco, we did mention in the last quarterly update that Embraco was going to release version 8. They did release that in Q1, so that's a major release for that CMS platform. We started to use that internally to validate some of the features and functionality and start to look at using that for future projects. So there isn't currently an upgrade path from Embraco 7 to 8. So if you're currently on a version of Embraco, if you have a live Embraco site, you're definitely on Embraco 7. And we will advise you when there is an opportunity to be able to look at upgrading to Embraco 8. But it is a pretty major change for that platform. A number of years for that to come around. Episerver is still on version 11 at this time, so they do have plans in the future later this year to possibly look at a new release, but there isn't any specifics on that yet. Adage has continued to work this past quarter with Reach, which is an Episerver project or product and campaign. Reach is the ability for the website to identify that a certain event has happened. So someone browses to a particular part of the site, they take a look at something, and Reach allows you to trigger an action to be taken. Campaign is then a way for that trigger to put someone into a marketing automation campaign. So you can identify that someone looks at a production page, you would like then to send them a promotion code if they haven't purchased something within X amount of days. And that's how those two products fit together. If you're interested in taking a look at these products and see how they might fit your needs, they are a little bit on the higher end of the cost spectrum, but they do have a lot of interesting features and functionality. So it's something that you might want to take a look at or know that it's part of a future roadmap goal if you're interested in either of those products. For the ACE platform, we've been working on ACE components. So we have been working with ACE for a number of years. We currently sell ACE as a full package. During this past, I think 9 months or so, we've been working towards componentizing the approach. And that is providing us with the ability to look at individually packaging one component at a time. This can be helpful for those who might be on TNU and want to replace a particular feature within what TNU is offering, but you would like a componentized version of that, something that you might be able to customize to your needs or provide some better functionality to the user. So if you're interested in possibly enhancing or looking at one of the components that we might be offering, we'll have more info about this when it comes to the Testatura conference later this summer. You can also reach out to your project team now, and we can start a conversation with you if an ACE component might work for you. We've continued to work on the mobile ticketing front and using as many features on the mobile device as possible. This past quarter, we've done some work with Apple Pay, some more instances where mobile barcodes, 2D barcodes are being distributed and used in different ways, as well as Apple Wallet and being able to send the tickets from what we generate from Testatura into an Apple Wallet item, and then being able to work with that. There are some interesting areas to watch out for when approaching this for your organization, which we'd want to talk to around technical limitations or other concerns. But we've certainly had an opportunity this past quarter to work with a couple of these technologies, and we can continue to work with you in defining a roadmap that would work for you.
Great, and I'm going to close it out by giving an update on what we've been up to with Smartsheet, the seat selector tool. So currently today, we now have 16 organizations that are live on Smartsheet. You can see the list of them here, with some of those most recent launches being the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra and the Goodman Theater as part of their larger projects. We also have added a few other additional licensees, so we've got about 22 now total that are lined up and that are either going to go live as part of other projects or at some point here in the next couple of months as they continue to get things ready to go live with that update to Smartsheet. A couple of updates about the product itself. So last time we mentioned that we're going to be focusing next on usability testing, and that is key for us this quarter. We are still looking for assistance in providing users. There are ways that there are a couple of companies that we're already working with who are providing us some users, and then we can also get additional users that are just sort of users of the internet. But ideally, we would love to have actual sample sets from our clients. So if your organization is interested in providing assistance, providing us with some different users to go through Smartsheet with us, do let us know. We're happy to have them included as well. And for anyone who is not a current licensee of Smartsheet, we are having that webinar that I mentioned on May 21st. It's going to be at 10:30 Central Time. You should have already gotten a couple of other emails about it, but if you haven't, please do reach out to myself, Sarah, or your product team and ask to be added to the list to get that invite so you can register for it. Basically, what we're going to be doing is a demo of Smartsheet, so if anyone hasn't seen it before, it will be a great way for you to get familiar with the product. And if you have seen Smartsheet, but it's been a little while, we're also going to be including all of the new updates that we've added to the product recently. So things like how Smartsheet works with exchanges or subscriptions, the upsell capabilities that we added in there as well. So the ability to suggest that if someone's in a certain set of seats, they get upsold to a better set of seats in the house. So we've been doing a lot of really exciting new things with the product, and we're excited to share it with you, particularly if you are an organization that is on TNU and you are considering or you're getting ready for that move to V7 or you've already moved to V7. There are a number of different features with Smartsheet that sort of go to the next level from what's included with the SYOS tool for TNU. So particularly if you're an organization that has either a non-traditional layout for your venue or you have multiple venues and you'd like to be able to change and control what those look like, as well as sort of guiding your users through things like view from seat and different additions like that. This would definitely be a great time to take a look at Smartsheet and see what we've been up to, see how it could work with what you are looking to do with your V7 upgrade. And I believe that is everything that we were planning to talk through today. So thank you all so much for your time. It was great having you here.